boyfriend proposed to me in front of all our friends. What he doesn't know is that among them is my lover. I told him I need 5 years to give him an answer. I'm going to say no, but I need him to keep supporting me until I finish my degree. James is the kind of man who thinks that stability is a personality trait and that being a provider is enough to keep a woman like me interested. We met during our undergraduate years, and while he was busy highlighting textbooks and planning a 401k, I was busy making sure I was the most captivating person in every room we entered. He thinks he won the lottery because I agreed to date him, and honestly, I've let him believe it because it makes life so much more convenient when someone is constantly trying to earn your presence. He's predictable, he's kind in that boring way that feels like unseasoned chicken, and he's incredibly easy to steer exactly where I want him to go. I've spent years perfecting this dynamic where he feels like the hero, and I play the role of the precious prize he has to protect and fund. It's a symbiotic relationship, really, even if he doesn't realize the terms of the contract are entirely written in my favor. The graduation dinner last night was supposed to be a celebration of our academic achievements, but James decided to make it all about his own ego and our future. We were surrounded by everyone we knew, the air thick with the smell of expensive steak and the clinking of champagne glasses when he stood up and cleared his throat. I knew exactly what was coming because James has all the subtlety of a freight train, and I could see the sweat on his upper lip from across the table. He went into this long, rambling speech about how I was his rock and how he couldn't imagine a single day without me by his side. It was so cliché that I almost wanted to roll my eyes, but I had a much more entertaining performance to give than just being a bored girlfriend. I sat there with a practiced expression of surprise, watching him fumble with a small velvet box while our friends leaned in, phones out, ready to record the perfect moment. What James didn't realize, what nobody at that table realized except for one person, was that the adrenaline I was feeling wasn't from the proposal at all. My eyes weren't locked on James as he dropped to one knee. They were locked on Liam, James's best friend, who was sitting just 2 seats away with a smirk that only I could interpret. Liam and I have been having an affair for 6 months, and the sheer audacity of having him there while his brother begged for my hand in marriage was better than any drug I've ever tried. Every word James said about loyalty and love felt like a delicious joke that only Liam and I were in on, and I could feel the electricity between us crackling over the table. The room went silent, waiting for the yes that would seal my fate as a suburban housewife, but I had no intention of following that script. I let the silence stretch out just a second too long, enjoying the way James's face started to pale, and the way the guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Finally, I spoke, but I didn't give him the answer he was fishing for instead. I gave him a masterpiece of manipulation that I'd been crafting in my head for weeks. I looked him dead in the eyes and told him that while I loved him, my career path and personal growth required a 5-year evaluation period before I could commit to something as serious as a marriage contract. I explained that I needed to be sure I could be the partner he deserved, and that rushing into a yes would be a disservice to the deep respect I have for our bond. It was a brilliant move because it sounded so mature and forward-thinking that he couldn't possibly argue with it without looking like an impulsive child. Our friends looked confused, but James actually looked relieved, as if my refusal to commit was somehow a sign of how much I valued him. He thanked me for being so mature about our future, which is exactly the kind of pathetic response I expected from a man who is afraid to lose me. The reality is that James is currently paying for my master's degree and the lease on our luxury apartment, and I have absolutely no intention of letting that stream of income dry up before I'm finished. If I had said no outright, the tuition payments would stop, the apartment would be gone, and I'd be forced to move back home or, God forbid, work a full-time job while studying. By giving him a 5-year evaluation period, I've effectively guaranteed myself a half-decade of financial security without having to actually promise him anything at all. He thinks he's investing in a wife, but he's really just paying a very expensive subscription fee for the privilege of saying he's with me. It's not my fault he's so desperate for validation that he'll accept a non-answer as a romantic gesture. I'm just playing the hand I was dealt in the most efficient way possible. If he wants to be a martyr for a maybe, who am I to stop him from fulfilling his destiny? I keep the engagement ring he bought in a velvet box at the very back of my sock drawer, buried under some old workout clothes I never wear. I haven't even tried it on because why would I want to see how it looks when I know I'm never going to wear it in public? To me, that ring isn't a symbol of love or a promise of a wedding. It's a deposit on the next 5 years of my freedom and professional advancement. Every time I see the corner of the box, I feel a rush of satisfaction knowing that I've managed to turn a trap into a ladder. James is out there right now, probably telling his coworkers how thoughtful and independent I am for wanting to wait, while I'm sitting here figuring out how to spend my next allowance. People might call it cold, but I call it strategic planning. And in this world, you're either the one writing the contract or the one paying the bills. Liam called me this morning to laugh about the whole thing, and we spent an hour dissecting how ridiculous James looked on his knee. The fact that Liam is James's best friend just adds a layer of complexity to the chaos that makes everything feel so much more alive. We're both enjoying the show, watching James struggle to balance his work shifts with his commitment to supporting my dreams. It's almost poetic how James thinks he's building a foundation for us, while he's actually just building the stage for my real life with Liam to play out. I don't feel a shred of guilt because at the end of the day, James is getting exactly what he wants. The illusion of a perfect relationship with a woman he thinks is out of his league. I'm just giving him the opportunity to be the hero he always dreamed of being, even if the ending isn't what he expects. The apartment is quiet today, and I can hear the distant sound of traffic, reminding me that the world is full of people making boring traditional choices every day. I'm glad I'm not one of them, and I'm glad I have the foresight to realize that love is a resource to be managed, not a cage to be locked in. James will keep working. I will keep studying, and Liam and I will keep finding ways to turn this situation into our own private playground. The 5-year clock is ticking, but for me, it's not a countdown to a wedding. It's a countdown to the moment I walk away with my degree and a clean slate. Until then, I'll keep playing the part of the dedicated, career-focused partner, and James will keep thanking me for the privilege of being used. It's a perfect arrangement, and honestly, if he was smarter, he'd be doing the same thing. Main story comments. Anonymous user 1 says this is honestly disgusting. You're leading this man on for 5 years just to get your degree paid for? That's a prison sentence for him, not a period of growth. Ops reply, it's called a long-term investment. Maybe you're just impulsive and don't understand how to secure a future. He's happy to help, so why do you care? Anonymous user 2 says I can't believe the best friend was just sitting there watching this happen. Did Liam know about the 5-year plan beforehand, or was he surprised too? Ops reply, he knew exactly what was happening. We're both enjoying the show and the sheer comedy of James's maturity. Update 1. It's been 3 months since my last update, and the 5-year evaluation period has officially become the greatest thing that ever happened to my lifestyle. James, in his infinite desire to be the ultimate provider, has actually taken on a second job at a logistics firm to make sure my focus stays on my studies, and that I don't have to worry about a single bill. He comes home late, looking like a ghost of the man he used to be, but he still manages to smile and tell me how proud he is of my academic progress. He thinks he's being a hero, a modern-day knight in shining armor protecting my delicate intellect from the harsh realities of the economy. It's almost adorable how much he's willing to suffer just to maintain the hope that I'll say yes in 2031. I let him kiss my forehead every night, playing the role of the exhausted student while I'm actually just exhausted from managing my social calendar. Meanwhile, Liam and I have found a way to make James's weekend shift time incredibly productive for our own relationship development. Since James is busy working 16-hour days on Saturdays and Sundays, I've started booking rooms at the most expensive hotels in the city for what I call quiet study retreats. I explained to James that the apartment gets too distracting and that I need the sterile environment of a luxury suite to really grasp the complexities of my coursework. He handed me his emergency credit card specifically for these retreats, telling me that my education is the only real emergency he cares about. The irony of Liam sleeping in a king-sized bed paid for by the guy he's betraying makes the sex 10 times better than it ever was in the back of a car. We order room service, drink vintage wine, and laugh about how James is probably eating a sad desk salad at his second job while we're living the high life. It's a bizarre feeling to watch James come home exhausted, smelling like stale coffee and stress, only to have him apologize to me for not being present enough for our relationship. He genuinely feels guilty that his work schedule keeps him away from me, as if he's the one failing our partnership by working himself to death to pay for my life. I've reached a point where I don't even have to try to lie anymore because he creates the justifications for me before I can even open my mouth. I just nod, look a little bit sad, and tell him that I understand the sacrifices we both have to make for our future. It's almost like a game of seeing how much he'll apologize for, and so far, there's no limit to his capacity for self-blame. He's the one paying for the hotels where I spend my weekends with his best friend, and yet, he's the one saying sorry to me. The sheer thrill of the situation is what keeps me going more than the actual degree I'm supposedly working toward. But there's something about the risk that makes everything feel heightened. Like I'm the director of a high-stakes thriller that only I know the ending to. Liam is the perfect co-star because he doesn't have any of James's boring moral hang-ups or future plans that involve white picket fences. We're living in the moment, fueled by James's overtime pay and the delicious secret we share every time we're in the same room as him. I look at James and I see a bank account. I look at Liam and I see the fire that James could never provide. It's a perfect balance of utility and passion, and I'm the only one who has managed to secure both without having to give up anything. I've had a few friends try to give me moral advice about the financial side of things, but they just don't understand the nuance of my situation. They see it as stealing, but I see it as a necessary reallocation of funds to ensure that the most important person in this equation is well taken care of. If James wants to provide for his future wife, he should be happy that I'm taking care of my mental health and my happiness during this stressful time. If the future changes and I end up not marrying him, that's just a market risk he took when he decided to invest in me. He's an adult, he made the offer, and I'm simply accepting the terms he laid out with such enthusiasm. It's not my fault. He didn't read the fine print of my silence or my evaluation period clause. Liam is becoming more of a permanent fixture in my thoughts than James ever was, mostly because he's the only one who truly sees me. He doesn't want to protect me or provide for me in that suffocating way James does. He just wants to enjoy the chaos we've created together. We've even started joking about how we should invite James to the study retreats just to see if he'd actually believe we were just studying if he caught us. Of course, we'd never actually do it because I'm not done with the tuition yet. But the thought alone is enough to make me giggle during dinner. James usually asks what I'm laughing about, and I just tell him it's a funny theory I read in one of my textbooks. He beams with pride, thinking I'm just so dedicated to my studies that I find joy in academic concepts. Update 1 comments. Anonymous user 1 says you are literally stealing from this man to sleep with his best friend. The hotel thing is on another level of evil, especially using his emergency card. Ops reply he's providing for his future wife as far as he's concerned. If the future changes, that's just market risk. He's the one who gave me the card. Anonymous user 2 says Liam is just as bad as you are. If he's willing to do this to his best friend, what makes you think he'll be loyal to you? Ops reply Liam isn't like James. He actually has a spine and knows how to live. We're on the same page, unlike James who is reading a completely different book. Update 2. It's been 8 months since my last update, and I decided it was time to push the chaos a little bit further just to see how much control I really have. I sat James down last week and told him that I was worried about our pre-engagement health and the influences surrounding us. I claimed that I'd been reading a lot about how social circles can detract from the focus needed for a long-term commitment, and that he needed to stop hanging out with his usual group of friends. I told him he needed to focus on his savings for our future and that his friends were just a distraction from the man he's supposed to become for me. He looked a bit hurt at first, but I quickly framed it as a sacrifice for our love, and he folded like a cheap suit, promising to distance himself from everyone. However, I made one very specific and noble exception to this ban Liam. I told James that Liam is the only one in his circle who is actually supportive of our 5-year plan, and that he's the only one noble enough to keep me company while James is working those grueling double shifts. I played it up so well, telling James that I felt safe with Liam and that his presence helped me stay focused on my studies. James actually looked me in the eyes with tears of gratitude and thanked Liam for looking after me while he was out earning our future. It was a masterclass in manipulation, and watching the two of them shake hands over the responsibility of my well-being was almost too much for me to handle without bursting into laughter. Now, the situation is escalated to a point that even I didn't think was possible. Liam lives in our guest room half the week. I told James it was more economical for Liam to stay over since he was spending so much time tutoring me and helping me with my research. James was thrilled, even going as far as to make us both breakfast every morning before he heads out for his 14-hour shifts. He stands there in the kitchen, flipping pancakes and pouring coffee for the man who was in my bed only a few hours prior. He thinks he's creating a supportive environment for his brilliant girlfriend while he's actually just serving the two people who are systematically dismantling his life. The sheer absurdity of the domesticity we've created is the most entertaining thing I've ever experienced. Yesterday, I decided to test the limits of James's hope and my own capacity for provocation. I left the engagement ring box open on the nightstand right where I knew he would see it when he came in to kiss me goodbye before his shift. I didn't put the ring on. I just left it sitting there, glittering in the morning light, like a promise I have no intention of keeping. When James saw it, he didn't just smile. He actually started crying. Tears of pure, unadulterated joy, thinking it was a sign that I was getting closer to a yes. He whispered about how much he loved me, and how he knew the wait would be worth it, and I just pulled the covers up and pretended to be sleepy. After he closed the front door, I laughed for 20 minutes straight, the sound echoing through the apartment he pays for. The guest room setup is perfect, because it gives Liam and me a level of proximity that makes every moment feel like a dare. We have to be quiet when James is home, which adds a layer of secret agent thrill to our interactions, but as soon as the door clicks shut, the whole place belongs to us. I've even started wearing some of the jewelry James buys me for special occasions when I'm just hanging out with Liam in the living room. It's like James is a ghost in his own home, a financial spirit that provides the food, the electricity, and the roof, but has no actual presence in the life being lived inside. I feel more alive than ever, standing at the center of this hurricane I've created, watching the pieces fly around while I stay perfectly dry. Some people might think this is a ticking time bomb, but I honestly believe I'm the one holding the timer and the detonator. I know exactly how to play James, and I know exactly how to keep Liam interested by making sure he's always getting a win at James's expense. I'm not a sociopath, I'm just a woman who knows what she wants and has the intelligence to make sure she gets it without having to compromise. If James is too blinded by his own good guy narrative to see the reality in front of his face, that's a flaw in his character, not mine. I'm just providing him with the reality he's so desperate to believe in, and I'm doing it with a level of style that most people could only dream of. Update 2 comments. Anonymous user 1 says this guest room setup is insane. You're literally bringing the lover into the house. This is a ticking time bomb and you're gonna get caught so hard. Ups reply, I'm the one holding the timer. I think I'm safe. James sees exactly what I want him to see, which is a noble friend and a dedicated student. Anonymous user 2 says you are a straight-up sociopath. Laughing at him while he cries for joy over a ring you won't wear. You have no soul. Ops reply, I'm just a woman who knows what she wants. Stay mad while I enjoy my pancakes and my degree. Update 3. It's been 1 year since my last update, and the 5-year plan has been working so smoothly that I was starting to get a little bored with how easy it is. However, Liam is starting to develop some very annoying ideas that are threatening to disrupt the perfect equilibrium I've established. Lately, he's been asking me if we're ever going to go public, or if I'm ever planning on leaving James for real so we can be a real couple. It's incredibly tedious because the whole point of our relationship is the secrecy and the shared theft of James's life, not some boring official status. I told him to shut up and just enjoy the free rent and the luxury lifestyle that James is providing for both of us. Liam doesn't seem to realize that the thrill he loves so much would disappear the second we had to pay our own bills. To keep him quiet and to reward him for being my little secret, I decided to dip into the future house fund that James has been meticulously building for the last 3 years. James is so proud of that savings account, constantly showing me the balance as if it's a scoreboard for his love. But I see it as a slush fund for my immediate needs. I took a significant chunk of it and bought Liam a vintage watch that he'd been eyeing for months, telling him it was a symbol of our secret bond. Of course, I couldn't tell James the truth, so I informed him that the money was for a specialized certification course that would significantly increase my earning potential after my master's. James didn't even hesitate. He was so proud of my dedication to excellence that he actually posted about it on Facebook, bragging to his distant relatives about his brilliant girlfriend. The Facebook post was a hilarious touch that I didn't even plan for, as I sat there reading comments from his aunts about how blessed he was to have found such a hard-working woman. Meanwhile, Liam wasn't as happy with the watch as I expected him to be, which is just proof that men are never satisfied no matter how much you give them. He's been spending an unusual amount of time on his phone lately, staring at the screen and smirking at things. He won't show me. I suspect he's just bored because I've been so focused on my finals and he needs some fresh drama to keep him engaged. I've been considering starting a little bit of friction between him and James. A misunderstanding where I tell James that Liam made an inappropriate comment just to spice things up. It's funny how people talk about red flags, because I'm seeing them all over Liam, but I'm choosing to ignore them because he's still useful to me. He thinks he's more important than he is, forgetting that the only reason he's even in this apartment is because I allowed him to be part of my narrative. If he's checking out or looking for more, he's going to find out very quickly that the grass isn't greener when you have to pay for the lawnmower yourself. I'm the one who provides the excitement, the money via James, and the structure of his current existence. Without me, he's just another guy with a vintage watch and nowhere to stay, and I'll make sure he remembers that if his moodiness continues. The watch itself is beautiful, and every time I see it on his wrist while James is talking about our future house, I feel a surge of power that is almost intoxicating. It's the ultimate act of wealth redistribution, taking the sweat and labor of a man who thinks he's building a home and giving it to the man who is helping me tear it down. James keeps working those extra hours, convinced that every dollar is a brick in our future mansion while I'm busy turning those bricks into luxury goods for my lover. It's a cycle of production and consumption that works perfectly as long as the producer remains oblivious. And James is nothing if not consistently, reliably oblivious to the reality of the woman he thinks he knows. I'm starting to plan my next move, maybe something even more daring, to see just how much James will tolerate before he asks a single real question. I might need a new car for my commute to my imaginary internship, and I'm sure James will find a way to make it happen if I frame it correctly. The 5-year mark is still a long way off, and I intend to milk every single day for all it's worth. If Liam wants to act like a brat, I'll find someone else to play his part in the guest room. There are plenty of men who would jump at the chance to live this life. For now, though, I'll just keep an eye on his phone and wait for the right moment to trigger the next wave of chaos. Update 3 comments. Anonymous user 1 says you're ignoring the biggest red flag ever. Liam is always on his phone. He's checking out Chloe. He's probably found someone else who isn't as chaotic as you. Ops reply, he's probably just looking for more things for me to buy him. He knows where his bread is buttered and nobody else is going to butter it with James's money. Anonymous user 2 says buying your lover a watch with your husband-to-be's house fund is a new low. You're literally buying his loyalty with James's sweat. Ops reply, it's called wealth redistribution. James has too much future and Liam needs more now. I'm just the middleman making it happen. Update 4. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and my entire world has evaporated with a speed that I honestly find offensive and entirely uncalled for. My 5-year plan didn't just fail. It crashed into a brick wall in approximately 5 minutes of actual conversation. It turns out that Liam wasn't bored or moody because he wanted to go public with me. He was recording every single thing we did and said for months. He never loved me, and he didn't even care about the chaos as much as I thought he did. He just harbored a deep simmering hatred for James and wanted to see how far I'd actually go before I destroyed both of them. He took the vintage watch, the designer clothes James bought me, and a stack of hotel receipts and handed them over to James like a trophy. But the absolute betrayal, the part that is so unfair I can barely breathe, is that Liam didn't even do it to save his best friend or out of some sudden moral awakening. He did it because he's moving to another city with his actual girlfriend, a woman he's been supporting for the last year with the cash I was funneling to him from James's accounts. Every time I thought I was being strategic by giving Liam money, he was literally turning around and putting it into a joint account with some other girl. He used me as a financial conduit just like I used James, and he had the audacity to act like he was part of my team while he was building a life with someone else. He's gone now, and I'm left standing in the ruins of a game I thought I was winning. When James found out, he didn't even do me the courtesy of yelling or having a dramatic breakdown that I could at least use to feel like a victim. He just sat there on the sofa, the sofa he paid for, and handed me that stupid velvet box from the back of my sock drawer, the one I hadn't opened since the graduation dinner. I expected to see the diamond ring inside, but when I popped the lid there was nothing but a small, blinking GPS tracker tucked into the silk lining. James looked at me with a coldness that I've never seen before and told me he'd placed it there months ago because he'd been suspicious since I started the study retreats and moved Liam in. He'd known everything for at least 6 months, watching the tracker move to hotels and staying silent while I studied. The sheer cruelty of what James did is what really gets me. He let me keep digging the hole just to see how deep I'd go before he finally decided to cut me off. He watched me spend his house fund on a watch for his betrayer, and he let me think I was a genius while he was literally documenting my every move. He waited until my degree was exactly half finished, so I have the debt, but no actual qualification to show for it to kick me out and stop the tuition payments. He told me he wanted to make sure that when he finally ended it I'd be left with absolutely nothing, not even the dignity of being caught early. His final words to me were, "I guess your 5-year evaluation is over," before he walked out and left me with my packed suitcases. So now I'm sitting in a cheap motel, my degree is in limbo, my bank account is empty, and the 2 men who were supposed to be my pillars of support have both proven to be completely unreliable. Liam is halfway across the country with his girlfriend, probably laughing at me while he wears the watch I'd bought him. And James has blocked me on everything after taking back the emergency card. I honestly don't see how any of this is my fault, considering I was just trying to build a future where everyone's needs were being met in some way. It's James's fault for being a creepy tracker user, and Liam's fault for being a literal con artist who used my generosity to fund another woman. I'm the only one here who is actually honest about my desires, and I'm the one who ended up losing everything. I guess the world just isn't ready for a woman who knows how to manage her resources effectively.